This is a picture of the inside of my brain. Brain is my mind's eye, the screen in my head, just captured. So I thought maybe I would go over what's going on here. As in most things Western with English, you start up on the left-hand side and you go to the right. Left, right, left, right. And down here it's a little bit different. Uh, I've added a 4x6 card cut down a little bit just to do things a little differently. But up here, we've got something where we talk about. I've got two books that I'm looking at right now. One of them is a textbook I used, the best textbook I've ever used. It's called They Say, I Say, The Moves That Matter in Academic Writing by Gerald Graff and Kathy Birkenstein. And I decided that I need to review that book. And um, so I am. And one of the things they talk about is writing is a conversation. And that's fine, well, to say that, uh, because there can be all kinds of conversations. But I noted here that there's something shared, and that's what these arrows are for. It's the back and forth, the reciprocation that is necessary for a conversation to happen. Conversations that are one-sided um, are not conversations. And then I noted here in the blue later on that slow read is a shared conversation, especially if you use an annotation tool or if you're just talking and online with somebody. There are ways to do the slow read individually, and have an individual conversation with the text that you're reading or with others also conversing with the text. So the question I have is, so why? Why do we need to build context? And I said, so that the fish might swim and the birds might fly. Because without the context of air and water, neither of these creatures can make it. Which led me to a question and answer. Where is the convo? Well, where's the convo? And the answer is in one's head and on liminal thresholds. I think I misspelled thresholds. It's a word I have trouble with. So you can have a conversation in your own head, self-talk, or you can have it with an AI now, or you can have it with people and AIs, or just people. But in every instance, there is a threshold that has to be crossed, just like energy layers in an atom. To move one layer to another, you have to have energy. And over here, I talk about, I'm reminded, and they say I say that the conversation is like, I think of it as a dance, a series of moves, and that the whole purpose of writing is to, and this is hard to read what it says, and it's supposed to be, demystify. whole purpose of writer of, uh, of reading and writing is to demystify so that the reader's response can be closer to what the writer had in mind. So the other book I'm reading right now, so think of this right here as a threshold, a liminal threshold. And I'm crossing over from the textbook, They Say, I Say, to George Bernanos' book, Diary of a Country Priest. My copy was one that was given to me by one of my favorite teachers, Sister Helen Carey, who has only recently died at the age of 92. And she's a Benedictine nun who taught me more than I realized. So when I'm crossing over into uh, Bernanos' book, I'm also crossing over into uh, her memory as a teacher for me. Very good memory. She was the best. So this is where it gets a little jankier, and I try to have a conversation with Bernanos. And one of the things he says is really fascinating. He says, um, there is no chance with God that if you have a concept of God, and even if you don't, whatever your concept is, even if you're atheist, something larger than yourself, if you ascribe enough power to something, enough ultimate power, chance is taken out of the equation. So what we end up having to do is to work backwards. So what I'm ended up doing is in this conversation with Bernanos is to look at how he created the opening to his book, which is really wonderful. Uh, if you note over here, I have like a 1 through 7 here, and that's part of an analysis I've made of Bernanos' style and what he has done to create what he created. It's really powerful. Um, but at the same time, I keep going back to crossing over this threshold. So a conversation is a continual going back and forth, and the more it, open it is, the more I've forgotten the word for that. Um, permeable. That's the word. The more permeable your liminal threshold, the better the conversation. In this case, what I want to do is work backwards that from this abstraction into something concrete. So in essence, recreating what Bernanos did in his first few pages. Why? Because I want to. Because I want to talk direct to the reader. I want them to float down the river of me. And it leaves us in a quandary. It The quandary is this, and this is totally unrelated, but my son has found a complete set of the Oxford English Dictionary in Cherry Hall. In that was my work building. That's where I work. It's a beautiful old building, limestone veneer, a big clock tower. Uh, everything about it, floor to window, windows that had that were all the way to the floor in some parts. Just the light was exquisite in this thing. And he's found a set of OEDs there. And I'm at a point in my life where I don't really need any more books, but this concatenation of events makes me think that here's the quandary. The set was unopened, or as my son said, uncracked. So the quandary is, should I save it or not? Maybe that's something you can help me with. But back to Bernanos, you know, he calls writing, he equates writing and reading and prayer, although he never says that. And including in that are telling a story. So all four of those things are equal power. And to do it, what he does first, right here, he says, he starts out blunt, just as blunt as can be. And then he explains the statements he makes, the blunt statements that he makes. Then he explores its assumptions. And that's a fantastic entry level trick for writing. Those 3 steps. That'll get you going. And of course, that's what I want. I want to have a conversation. I want my template to be Bernanos, because the textbook, I say, says that's one of the problems with the conversations is that we don't share um, enough to be able to uh, write properly. That's a terrible way of putting it, but if you don't have any kind of template, you're just going to head off in any kind of direction. If you don't want to have too much of a template, because it restricts your creative juices. So after you explore the assumptions, then you want to be concrete. But what I mean by that is you work backwards toward the concrete, from the abstract. Then you instill a conflict. This is all very standard tricks of the trade. And then you introduce a character. And of course, you're introducing a character from the get-go. You know, the first line of the book says this, and then you realize that you're dealing with a temporary priest that says, "Mine is a parish like all the rest. They're all alike." And he goes on to say that what he means by that is they're boring. Now these are not the rantings of revolutionary, but they are revolutionary rantings. Um, After you instill the conflict, you introduce a character, and make sure they're round and fat, and I mean that figuratively. And last, you want to show how that character fits in to the blunt statement at the beginning. That amounts to about 4 or 5 pages of a world. It's in a way it's like science fiction, fantasy, literary RPG. All of those are about um, showing how he or she fits, and following. You can follow this to create the beginning of a whole new story. So that's where I am with this, and I'm working my way through this, hoping to discover more good stuff, and hoping to share this in the conversation with you, creating the context as I understand it, and then sharing that with you. And if you want to share, maybe we can come up with a way to do that. I do set a goal for myself here. I'm only going to work on this for 12 months. After 12 months, it's done, or it's at a place where I can set a new goal for it. But the idea of backwards engineering is one that's always appealed to me It works in education. Why couldn't it work in writing?